Chaz Farcher, our legal analyst from Martin Harding Mazzotti's here. Hey, Chaz.
Good morning, Chuck. Good morning, Kelly.
Been a little while. Good to talk to you. Hey, so I've heard a lot of people, not a lot of people, some people saying, oh, there's no way they should have shot Matt and/or especially Sweat because he was unarmed and maybe running away. But it seems to us, Kelly and I, that it was perfectly legal, right?
It is perfectly legal. You know, there's some people out there who are referencing an old Supreme Court case, Tennessee versus Garner, that says you can't shoot a fleeing suspect. You know, the difference here is you didn't have a fleeing suspect. You had a fleeing felon or a fleeing escapee. So the New York penal law specifically carves out the exception where you have a fleeing felon or somebody in the commission of a felony. The purpose of the other rule there is to really prevent law enforcement or other people from shooting someone that they believe may be a criminal or may have committed a crime. Here, there was no doubt. So there's a distinction between the two, and I think that's really where the confusion is.
Yeah, I mean, and also, he was a convicted cop killer. This is a cop. I mean, you have to talk about self-preservation here.
So they have to reasonably be determined to be dangerous, and certainly these two guys were.
And I think that's the other side of it, too. You know, there's also a good belief here that, you know, it seems that the officer tried to get Mr. Sweat to stop several times. He didn't comply with the command. There's a good belief there that he's armed and dangerous, right? So you don't have to wait for him to turn around and start shooting in this instance before you shoot back.
Okay, so David Sweat is now looking at going back to prison, and there's been talk of him being in solitary for up to 7 years. Is there any law regarding how long someone can be in solitary confinement? Because that does a number on you psychologically. I mean, is there a point where it becomes cruel and unusual punishment? I know we're talking about a bad guy here, but even so.
You know, there's been a lot of outcry against, solitary, or what they're usually called now special housing units or SHU units. But, you know, there really is no definitive guideline. There are plenty of cases where prisoners spend years and in some instances decades in solitary confinement. You know, so it's really left up to the Department of Corrections in terms of what the circumstances dictate and how you handle that. So, you know, he may very well spend a number of years in solitary confinement. I think the trade-off that he might have here, the negotiating or bargaining chip that he has, is the information regarding the escape, how they managed to do it. And so if he's willing to cooperate and talk, maybe that's probably something that he bargains for.
No, I know we're very lucky no one was killed, or other than the criminals, but no civilians were hurt, no law enforcement was hurt. But if someone had been killed, obviously we would be looking into additional murder charges. But people who lost or had damage to their property, like a cabin was damaged or the camper that was shot, can they hold the state responsible for that?
I wouldn't say it's out of the question. You know, there is some precedent for it. You've seen it in other states. Within the last decade, there was a case out in Arizona where you had an escaped prisoner commit a double murder, and the family of those people then later on brought a suit against the prison and the state, saying that the prison was grossly negligent in allowing them to escape, and therefore later on resulting in two people's deaths. I think in these instances it may be cost prohibitive, though, so that's something you probably got to look at: the damage to the trailer, or damage to the cabin, what it would cost to pursue a suit like that. So I wouldn't say it's out of the question. I just don't know that it's realistically going to happen.
Hey, we got to let you run, but just real quickly, the fact that nobody other than the escapees was injured or killed, does that affect in any way, help, for lack of a better word, Joyce Mitchell or Gene Palmer, the CEO, both of whom have been charged?
Yeah, no, I would say it certainly doesn't hurt them. I mean, there's still the cost to the taxpayers, for pursuing the manhunt and everything else, and I think somebody's got to be held accountable, at least to some degree, for that. But the fact that nobody was killed or injured, I certainly think it doesn't hurt them when they're looking to negotiate or get some kind of a plea deal down the road.
Chaz, thanks. Good talking to you.
Have a great day, guys.
Legal analyst Chaz Farcher, Martin Harding Mazzotti, 1-800-LAW-1010.